AITA for seeking sole custody after my cousin forced my daughter to call him dad. My ex-wife Megan is 32 and I am 33. We got married at 24. Everything went well the first year. We both found jobs, rented a small apartment in a suburban neighborhood close to downtown, and spent our weekends at local farmers markets. Then Megan got pregnant. It was not planned, but neither of us was unhappy with the news. On the contrary, we were very happy. Our daughter was born when we were 26. After her birth, everything changed. Megan left her job to stay home with the baby, as we could not rely on anyone to help watch her. I started working more hours to compensate. When I came home every night, we were both so tired that we had no energy left for anything else. This is how relationships were down. When instead of talking about interesting things, you only talk about the baby's appointments and how unbearable her boss is. The arguments started about 6 months after our daughter was born. Megan said I did not help enough, which was not true, because on weekends, when I was home, I took care of the vast majority of things for our daughter. During the week, it was difficult because I had to work between 10 and 12 hours a day. She said I did not understand how hard it was to stay alone with a baby all day. The situation quickly escalated. We tried to make our relationship work for the sake of our daughter, but when she turned 2, we both knew it was better to separate. The divorce went surprisingly smoothly because even though we were fed up with each other, we agreed that it was best for everyone, including our daughter. We agreed on an alternating weekly shared custody arrangement. Our daughter spent 1 week with me and 1 week with Megan. The exchange took place on Sundays at 6 o'clock in the evening. For the next 4 years, this arrangement worked perfectly. Megan found a job with a little help from family and babysitters to watch our daughter. For my part, I was promoted and also got some help that was not available during our marriage for reasons not relevant here. With my new salary and Megan's, it was easier to hire help, in addition to the family support now available. Furthermore, our daughter spent about 2 weeks a month at each house. So there were only 2 weeks to organize to figure out who would watch her during our working hours. My working hours also decreased significantly since I no longer needed to make as much money. We remained cordial during the exchanges and for any coordination regarding our daughter on the phone. We sometimes dated other people, but nothing serious. We had an unspoken rule: do not introduce our daughter to anyone unless the relationship was serious. Our daughter was doing well. She never complained about this setup. She had her own room in each house, her toys, her routines. It seemed we had achieved the impossible, a divorce that did not destroy our child. 1 year ago, I met my girlfriend, 29. I liked her a lot, but most importantly, she seemed to like the idea that I had a daughter. After 6 months of dating, I realized it was different from anything I had experienced since the divorce. I asked Megan if she was okay with her meeting our daughter, and she said there was no problem. I wanted everything to go as smoothly as possible for everyone. My girlfriend met my daughter for the first time, and they hit it off immediately. Maybe even a little too well. From that moment on, she started to be present in my daughter's life. She would sometimes come spend the night. When it was my week with my daughter, they shared moments together like watching a movie or even doing homework. Megan even enjoyed spending time with my daughter and me, and everything was going very well until the problems with my ex began. One day, she asked to meet me to discuss something important regarding our daughter. We usually communicated by phone or during exchanges, so this seemed serious. She wanted to tell me that she wished to meet my girlfriend before things went any further. I did not understand why this was necessary, but Megan insisted, claiming it was for the safety and well-being of our daughter. I organized a lunch for them to meet, which my girlfriend accepted because she wanted everything to go well. The lunch took place 2 weeks later. My girlfriend, Megan, and I sat at a corner table to talk quietly. And what a great idea that was. The conversation was stiff. Megan asked my girlfriend questions about her job, her childhood, her family. More than a lunch, it felt like an interview for a highly sensitive position. My girlfriend answered everything politely, even though it seemed a bit out of line to me. At the end, Megan said she seemed okay, but that she expected me to pay attention to the example I was setting for our daughter. When I asked her what she meant, she replied that she simply wanted the best for our daughter. In the weeks that followed, I noticed that Megan's messages were becoming shorter and colder. She started asking to change custody days at the last minute, which she had never done before. 3 weeks ago, Megan showed up at my house on a Friday afternoon to talk. It was her week, so I was alone and our daughter was with one of Megan's family members. I took her into the kitchen. She looked nervous but also defiant, as if she were getting ready for a fight. She had to tell me something before I heard it from somewhere else. She was seeing someone, and it was not casual. It was serious. I replied that it was not a problem since I had always encouraged her to date someone when she felt ready. But when she said serious, she meant seriously problematic because it was about my cousin. I stood frozen looking at her. My cousin, 28, is the son of my mother's sister. Well, our families lived in the same neighborhood. You could say I did not have competitive siblings, but my cousin filled that role our entire childhood. After the divorce, he started texting me more. He wanted to grab a beer, catch up, act like we were close. I ignored him most of the time because I was already busy with my work and my daughter. I asked Megan how long this had been going on, and she said 1 month. They met in a local park, started talking, exchanged numbers, and the rest is history. She claimed they had real chemistry and that she was not going to apologize for moving on with her life. I told her I did not care who she dated, but that my cousin was a very bad choice. And here you are going to say, oh, the original poster is just jealous, but believe me, my cousin is a problematic person. She got defensive and told me I had no right to give my opinion on her relationships. I replied okay, but that she had to keep him away from my daughter until I was comfortable. To her, this was not fair since I had introduced my daughter to my girlfriend. I pointed out that I had asked for permission before doing so. My relationship was more serious, and it would be confusing for our daughter to see her mother dating my cousin. She replied that she did not care and that she would do the same. Then she pushed further, saying she was going to take our daughter to dinner with my cousin that night. I categorically refused, but she replied that it was her custody week and she would do what she wanted. To me, she was acting irresponsibly. To her, I was just being controlling. The discussion ended there and Megan left. I did not sleep all night. I checked my phone hoping for a message saying she had changed her mind. Nothing. The next day, Saturday, Megan brought our daughter back to my house at 10 o'clock in the morning. She was not supposed to bring her back until Sunday afternoon. Apparently, our daughter had been quiet all morning and had only spoken up to ask to come to my house. Megan thought she was not feeling well. I brought my daughter inside and Megan left. My daughter went straight to her room without saying a word. I followed her and found her sitting on the bed staring at the floor. I asked her if she was okay. She did not answer for several minutes. Then she started to cry. It took me almost an hour to get the whole story. The dinner took place at a restaurant near Megan's apartment. My cousin was already waiting for them. During the meal, he kept calling her sweetheart and kiddo in a way that made her uncomfortable. Then he started joking that he was her new dad. He told her she should practice calling him dad instead of calling him by his first name. My daughter thought he was joking and laughed, but he insisted. Now that he was with Megan, he would always be around, and it would be easier if she started calling him dad right away. My daughter replied that she already had a dad. My cousin retorted, yes, but now you have 2 dads, isn't that great? My daughter looked at Megan for help, but Megan kept eating her salad without saying anything. My cousin became more insistent, saying that if my daughter made things complicated, it would make the situation difficult for everyone. He did not raise his voice, but his tone made it clear that it was no longer a joke. My daughter remained silent for the rest of the dinner. On the way back to Megan's, she asked to come to my house, but Megan told her it was not possible and she had to stay until Sunday. My daughter fell asleep crying. The next morning, she asked to leave again. Megan finally gave in and brought her to me. After telling me everything, my daughter asked if she had to go back to Megan's the following week. Monday morning, I called my lawyer. I explained the situation and asked what my options were. He told me I could request an emergency custody modification for emotional distress. It would not be easy, but if I proved my daughter's well-being was at risk, a judge could temporarily adjust the agreement. I filed the request that afternoon. 3 days later, Megan was notified. She immediately called me yelling that I was trying to take her daughter away over a bad dinner. When I replied that it was not because of the dinner, but because of her judgment and the fact that she let my cousin pressure our daughter, she hung up on me. 2 days later, I started seeing posts. Megan had written that I was jealous of her happiness and that to ruin this moment as she was starting a new relationship, I was trying to sabotage our custody agreement. She never mentioned she was dating my cousin, nor that it rather seemed like she was jealous because of my girlfriend. Megan's family seemed to support her regardless of the fact that she was dating my cousin. I do not know if everyone knew, but at least her parents did, and they had no problem with it. Even though I did not like the idea of my cousin being involved for many reasons, who she dated was none of my business. But given everything that happened, it became a problem. My own family had a mixed reaction. My parents were horrified when I told them what my cousin had done. They know him too well not to be. My mother called her sister and confronted her. It went poorly because my aunt defended her son, saying my daughter just wanted attention. My mother yelled at her that she was the second biggest idiot in the family and only lost first place to her son, but just barely. She also ordered her to stay away from her granddaughter, which included her son as well. My father also supported me, but to him, his sister's son was not the only problem, even though he thought exactly like my mother. The problem is this. My cousin had a complicated adolescence with substance abuse issues, mostly alcohol, though other things cannot be ruled out during that period of his life. Today, he claims to be sober, and I can almost believe it, but I would have preferred Megan to take things slower instead of rushing in. In reality, all this seems too much like a coincidence to be a naturally born relationship. During our arguments, she mentioned things that make me think she is jealous of my girlfriend, not because of me, but because she gets along well with our daughter. However, my daughter has never called my girlfriend mom, at least not in front of us. It is as if Megan is trying to win some sort of competition over which parent's partner the child prefers, or something like that. The custody hearing is scheduled for next month. My lawyer says we have a case if my daughter is affected by all this, but it is not a guaranteed win if she has not suffered actual trauma. Furthermore, Megan has been a good mother in general, and judges do not like taking a child away from her mother without clear proof of danger. My daughter's testimony will be crucial, but this worries my lawyer. My girlfriend has been very supportive through all this. She stays at her place more to give me space. She told me she would understand if I wanted to put our relationship on pause until the situation is resolved. Even though I thanked her for the gesture, I prefer having her by my side right now. Since that dinner, my daughter has become very clingy to me and does not want to go back to her mother's. I tried explaining to her what the custody agreement means, but I do not know if she truly understood. The only thing she keeps repeating is that she does not want to go back to her mother's, and she never wants to see my cousin again. She knew him from family events, but she had never experienced anything like this. In fact, I am starting to think there is something else behind all this than just him pushing her to call him dad. Edit. I think detailing what my cousin did during his addiction phase is not worth it. His mother knows very well what it is about since she had to live through it. I am someone who believes in second chances, but when it comes to my daughter, I prefer to play it safe. That is why I wanted to wait until things were more serious with Megan. Because even if years have passed since his rehab, the fight against addiction lasts a lifetime. Even if it is not directly related here, at least to my knowledge, my cousin's behavior, based on what my daughter says, does not seem very normal. Update 1. The custody hearing took place yesterday. I need to write everything down while it is still fresh because I cannot believe what happened in that courtroom. The previous weeks were difficult. My daughter stayed with me the whole time because a temporary order was granted until everything was resolved. The judge accepted it after a preliminary meeting between my daughter and a court social worker. Megan had supervised visits twice a week at a family visitation center in the city. My daughter went, but it did not go very well because she did not want to open up to her mother. After her visits, Megan usually posted on social media about how much it hurt her as a mother to be separated from her daughter. She told a distorted version of what happened during the visits, saying our daughter cried because she did not want to leave her. That was not the case at all. Unfortunately, my lawyer advised me not to contradict her publicly during this time. First, because it would have been my word against hers. I was not going to film an interaction between mother and daughter to prove my point and expose my child just so strangers could see her. And if I simply wrote my version, it remained my word against hers. My cousin showed up at my house one night, about 2 weeks before the hearing. I had just put my daughter to bed and was cleaning the kitchen when I heard a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole and saw him. I did not open. He kept knocking, then started yelling that he knew I was inside and that we needed to talk. I called the police. By the time they arrived, he was already gone. The officers took my statement and said they would put it on record. My lawyer used this report in court. He also presented the text messages my cousin had sent me, including several where he called me pathetic and said I was jealous that Megan had moved on. In one of them, he claimed he was doing all this because my daughter would eventually realize I was the problem and would want to spend more time with him and Megan. Megan's lawyer tried to argue that I was taking things out of context. She presented character witnesses who spoke about the devoted mother Megan was. Her sister testified that Megan called her every day crying because she missed her daughter. Megan's mother claimed I was acting out of spite because she had found happiness again. Then, a report from a forensic psychologist based on an in-depth interview with my daughter was analyzed. New details about that dinner emerged. First, my cousin was drinking alcohol with Megan. Yes, the same former addict. My daughter did not phrase it that way, but she gave details. There was a bottle that looked like a wine bottle, and they were both drinking. Second, my cousin was much more aggressive than what my daughter had initially told me. She was afraid to say it, but she confided in the professionals specializing in this type of situation. Finally, their behavior was inappropriate in front of her. Especially my cousin, who was way too affectionate with Megan, even though she seemed to try to tell him no. This is what we could gather from a child's account, and it painted a rather disturbing picture. The judge called for a recess after the psychologist's testimony to review additional evidence. We waited in the hallway for over an hour. Megan sat at the other end with her lawyer and family. No one spoke to each other. When we returned to the courtroom, the judge announced his decision. He granted me sole custody, but Megan will have visits every other weekend, from Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon, on the condition that my cousin is never present during her visits. The judge stated that my daughter had clearly expressed her discomfort and fear toward my cousin, and that Megan's lack of reaction during the dinner showed poor judgment. He also pointed out that her false posts on social media painted a bad picture of her as a mother. Megan started crying. Her lawyer asked for a stay of the order to appeal, but the judge denied it, stating the decision took effect immediately. That night, my aunt called me to yell at me about what I had done to my cousin and Megan. According to her, everyone now knew he had relapsed, which means she knew it too. My mother was not happy with my aunt either, but their relationship was already strained before this. I told her that her son needed to seek help for his own good, and she hung up on me. My mother called me back a few hours later because my aunt had sent a mass email to the extended family, accusing me of making up stories about my cousin to get custody. The message claimed my daughter had been manipulated into saying these things, and that my cousin was completely sober. My mother replied and copied everyone, but she wanted me to be aware of what was going on in the family. The following days were quiet. My girlfriend came over most evenings and helped me with dinner and homework. Last weekend was Megan's first visit. I dropped my daughter off at the family center on Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Megan was already there. My daughter walked slowly toward her mother, but did not hug her. Megan tried to talk to her, but my daughter just nodded. They left together, and I drove away to wait out those 24 hours. It is clear I do not like this situation, but it is what the judge decided. That evening, my daughter told me Megan had cried a lot during the visit and kept asking her why she had said those things to the judge. Megan told her that she had hurt her and made everyone believe she was a bad mother. My lawyer is already aware of all this. Yesterday, I received a message from my cousin. He said Megan had broken up with him and that he held me responsible for destroying their relationship. According to him, Megan was completely devastated since she lost shared custody and was no longer capable of handling a relationship. I blocked his number after reading that. This morning, my lawyer called me. Megan's lawyer contacted him to modify the visitation schedule because Megan wants to go back to the old system. Her argument is that my daughter is already adjusted and everything has calmed down, so there is no longer a reason to limit visits. We answered no. This kind of situation does not adapt to Megan's mood swings. I also asked my daughter the next morning at breakfast if she wanted to spend more time with her mother. She replied she did not know. I asked if she felt safe at Megan's, and she said yes, but only if my cousin was not there. I explained to her that he would not be allowed to be present during visits, and she asked how I could be sure. When I told her it was a judge's decision, she thought for a moment and asked if we could leave things the way they are. If Megan wants to modify the agreement, she will have to file a new request, and we will go back to court. For now, everything remains unchanged. Megan's social media is silent since she deleted her posts. I do not know if she did it because it was the right thing to do or to look better. In the end, even during the visit she pressured our daughter again not to say things that could make her look bad. My lawyer advised me to wait and see how Megan behaves during upcoming visits. With this kind of behavior, it is even possible her visitation rights could be revoked as well. So it is better to wait. Update 2. Megan filed a request for a hearing to modify custody 3 weeks ago. The date is set for next month. Her lawyer sent a thick file including statements from her family, a psychological evaluation she took voluntarily, and a statement from the counselor she is seeing. In short, they claim she has done the work to address the concerns raised during the previous hearing and that she deserves shared custody. My lawyer reviewed everything and told me her case was stronger than he would have liked. The psychological evaluation shows no red flags. The counselor explains that Megan is working on the situation and learning to set better boundaries. Her family claims she has always been a devoted mother and that the current arrangement is too restrictive. But something unexpected happened. 2 weeks ago, my daughter was on a regular visit at Megan's. I dropped her off Saturday morning as usual. Everything seemed normal. On Sunday afternoon, when I came to pick her up, my daughter was quiet again, but not withdrawn like before. She seemed thoughtful, not scared. We got home, and she went to her room to unpack her bag. A few minutes later, she came into the kitchen where I was starting to make dinner and asked if we could talk. I sat down with her and waited. My daughter told me something had happened at Megan's that weekend. Megan's parents were there most of Saturday. They had brought food and spent the afternoon watching her play in the backyard. Everything was fine until my daughter heard Megan and her mother talking in the kitchen while she was going to get a glass of water. Megan's mother was telling her to stop being so emotional during visits because it made my daughter uncomfortable. Megan replied that she could not help it because she missed her and the situation was unbearable. Then Megan told her mother that she never should have gotten involved with my cousin, that it was a stupid decision made out of spite. Seeing me move forward with my girlfriend and seeing how happy my daughter was with her, she had wanted to hurt me back. When she ran into my cousin in that park, she knew exactly what she was doing. She knew it would upset me. My daughter, who had heard everything, did not understand at all, but she understood that Megan was with my cousin solely to annoy me. The next morning, I called my lawyer and explained what my daughter had heard. It was helpful, but the situation remained complex for a child her age. It was not the same as something she had seen with her own eyes, but rather something she had heard. But then, something else happened. My cousin checked back into rehab. That would not be surprising, except he agreed, as part of his program to make amends, to send me an apology letter for what he did. In this letter, he talks a lot about our youth and our differences, but also about what happened recently. First, he explains that Megan did not meet him in a park, but in a bar. That is where they had their first date after she contacted him. To be absolutely clear, Megan knew about his addiction issues. And even if it was not her idea to go there, it should have been the first red flag that an addict invites you to a bar. Granted, they serve non-alcoholic drinks in these places, but it is too great a temptation for someone fighting their own demons. He then confessed that Megan had insisted it would be a good thing for our daughter to call him dad, and that she was okay with him drinking that night to loosen up the atmosphere. He also admitted they were very affectionate with each other, just as my daughter had said. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but way too much to be okay in front of a child. Yesterday, my lawyer presented this handwritten letter from my cousin, authenticated by an expert to prove it was indeed his handwriting in case he was summoned and denied the facts. This led to the suspension of Megan's visits until a final decision. My daughter seems to be doing well. She is doing great in school and made a new friend. The hearing next month will determine what happens with custody. My lawyer thinks this new information regarding my cousin will be helpful, but he warns me against being overconfident. My ex continues to present herself in a very positive light, rehabilitated if you will, and this could influence the judge. Everything will depend on the severity of the facts and perhaps on whether my cousin agrees to testify to provide more details. I hope his treatment works and that he will do the right thing in the end. But for now, it feels like a game of chess where every move can have consequences several turns ahead. Update 3. The hearing took place last week. I am writing from my living room while my daughter is asleep upstairs and my girlfriend is in the kitchen making tea. These past few weeks have been intense, and I need to write it all down before I forget the details. Megan's lawyer was well prepared. She brought in a child psychologist to testify about the importance of the bond between mother and child and how limited visits can be harmful in the long run. She also had Megan's counselor speak to explain the work she had done to better manage her emotions and improve her judgment. 3 of Megan's co-workers testified to her seriousness and responsibility at work. Megan herself testified, explaining how much she missed her daughter and how much she had learned from her mistakes. It was convincing. I saw the judge taking notes and nodding at certain points. Then my lawyer presented our side. He called my cousin to testify. He confirmed what he had written in his letter, providing even more details. He apologized for his actions and explained that fixing his past mistakes was part of his recovery process. The judge asked several pointed questions about his motives and any hidden interests. He replied that his only goal was to tell the truth, even if it made him look bad. We also presented a report from the supervised visitation center. The supervisor noted that Megan displayed inappropriate behavior during visits. When my daughter was not enthusiastic about leaving with her, Megan would pressure her instead of trying to reassure her and talk to her. Finally, after a lot of tension, the judge delivered his ruling, an end to supervised visits and awarding 100% custody to me. There was a lot of yelling in the courtroom, mostly from my ex and her family, while her lawyers still tried to talk to the judge. Then it all ended, and we went home. It has been 5 days. Yesterday, I got a text from Megan. There was no filter because she thinks she has nothing left to lose. I do not believe that is true, because if she tries to modify the agreement again, all of this will be used as evidence against her. She insulted me in every possible way, but also my parents, my girlfriend, and even my cousin. I am keeping this message in case it is useful later. My cousin finished his stint in rehab, and now begins the hardest part: staying sober without the constant support these centers provide. My aunt is no longer speaking to my mother for now, but I have some information through other family members. In a way, even though I prefer to stay very far away from my cousin, I sincerely hope he makes it. Addictions are no joke. However, as far as I am concerned, I will keep my distance, especially when it comes to my daughter. The relationship between my girlfriend and my daughter has grown stronger. My daughter now asks for her opinion. What to wear for school, how to draw an animal, whether a joke is funny. My girlfriend is not replacing Megan, but she has become an important person in my daughter's life. I appreciate her immensely because I know how hard it is to date someone who has a child. It did not affect her directly, but she was there for me during my hardest times. Last night, my daughter asked if I was going to marry my girlfriend. I asked her where that idea came from. Apparently, a friend at school told her that when a dad has a girlfriend for a long time, they usually end up getting married. That completely surprised me. I had not really thought about it, but now I cannot stop wondering. I will not do it right away, but I think my daughter has a valid point. However, I believe it is still too early to take that step. I do not know if the current situation will last or if Megan will request a modification in the future. I also do not know if my cousin will stay sober or fall back into his old habits, but I am certain this story is coming to an end and I probably will not have anything new to share for a while. Update 4. For a time frame, the last time I posted here was a little over 3 years ago. So I am doing an update on my life if that is allowed on this forum. I want to talk about my current life, my daughter, as well as my ex and my cousin. My daughter is doing great. She is thriving despite the fact that she is still estranged from her mother. Megan tried to get an agreement to be able to see her, and she partially succeeded, but I will get back to that later. The main thing is that my daughter is fine, and she has not replaced her mother with my current wife. Contrary to what Megan and others seem to think, I would say their relationship is more like that of two friends. I do not really know how to explain it, but they seem like sisters or best friends. I married my girlfriend about 6 months ago, after more than 3 years of dating. I finally proposed to her as I mentioned in a previous update, but much later. We talked about it a lot until we were both comfortable with the decision. Then I made it official with a ring and everything. My daughter was the most excited of all. She danced at my wedding with me, my wife, my parents, and everyone who still had enough energy to keep up with her pace. That is the effect of school soccer. My cousin has not relapsed to my knowledge. I saw him on 2 occasions, and he seemed to be doing well. He apologized to me, but he has not seen my daughter again, and it will stay that way by my decision. On those 2 occasions, my daughter was not present. If he has slipped back into his old habits, I do not know it. He could very well be hiding it. I hope that is not the case, but it is no longer my problem. It is simply a wish given the consequences it could cause. As for my ex, she asked for custody again 1 year after my last post. She got supervised visits at a center, but it did not go well at all. My daughter was older and expressed her displeasure toward her mother more. Megan, for her part, did not make much of an effort and lost her patience easily. Eventually, her visits stopped, and she never asked to see her daughter again. Up until that point, she at least tried to get updates on her, maybe once a week. After that, nothing at all. The last time I heard from Megan was when she found out I was getting married. She had a lot of things to say about me, my wedding, my fiancé, and even the dog we adopted, but I did not pay much attention to it. The rest of my life has gone quietly with little drama, exactly how I wanted. Comment: I really appreciate you watching this one all the way through. For me, the biggest takeaway is how important it is to protect your own peace and your child's well-being, no matter what. Setting clear boundaries isn't about control. It's about respecting yourself and the people you love. I have learned that choosing kindness and stability in our relationships makes everything feel lighter in the long run. Healing takes time, and it is completely okay to prioritize that for yourself and your family. Taking responsibility for the choices we make shows real strength and helps everyone move forward. You deserve connections that feel safe and supportive instead of draining. I hope this encourages you to always put your inner peace at the top of your list. Thank you for reflecting on these ideas with me today. I believe small, mindful choices like these can create a much calmer life for all of us. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.